Welcome back to the Smart Investor Show. Today, we welcome Aaron Christie-David, the founder of Atelier Wealth Mortgage Brokers, and he specialises in helping property investors scale their portfolios to join the top 1% of Australian investors. Being a strategic mortgage broker goes beyond rate. It's working towards a passive income target or portfolio value. Aaron has been ranked in the top 100 brokers 4 times, and his brokerage has won a number of industry awards. Aaron and Bernadette have 2 girls, Sienna and Zara, who are the driving force behind why they invest. Property can be a game changer to create intergenerational wealth. He sets the bar high personally, professionally, and in property. His ethos is, you can't be what you can't see. And he truly wants to see more investors succeed to inspire others to achieve success through investing in property. Aaron has published his first book, The Happy Home Loan Handbook, providing a blueprint to help more first home owners enter the property market. I'm certainly looking forward to this chat with Aaron. Aaron Christie-David, welcome to the Smart Investor Show.
Thanks, Julian. Mate, I appreciate you inviting me on. Thank you very much.
Mate, it's great to have you on. I've been fortunate enough to be with you on your show a couple of times, so it's a real honour to have you as one of our first guests as well.
Thanks, mate. Returning sir, buddy, I love it.
Exactly.
Mate, like we were saying before, you came onto our podcast. You've got great track record. So for me, I'm wishing you every success with your podcast. And mate, like we said, put one foot in front of the other, and a good message will never go out of fashion.
Well, that's right. Getting some good guests like yourself to start with will also help my traffic. So, mate, I'd always like to start to get to know, we'll talk about the business, we'll talk about the market, we'll talk about your insights as well around finance, obviously. But I'd love to get the Aaron Christie-David story a little bit, go back from the start. And how did you get here? How did you get to Australia? And obviously get us to the Atelier Wealth story.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, look. Birth lottery, I've got to say, when you look back now, mate, you absolutely, we're from Sri Lankan background. And I think whenever you go back to Sri Lanka, you realize, mate, we literally hit the gene pool lottery. My dad was working over in Saudi Arabia, as a lot of people as expats will do. They'd go over and earn some good dollars. At that stage when I was born, Sri Lanka then went into a civil war. And there was probably a few places to go at that time. It was Canada, the UK, or Australia. And we're very lucky that my parents chose Australia. So it was myself and my older brother. And I think back, mate, that's a big move for, as a migrant family to move to Australia with no job lined up. There wasn't a lot of cash and savings. I can't imagine making that move. And I'm established, two daughters. Just think about it. And that's with the internet now. You go back then, mate, they're traveling with traveler's checks. It's crazy. But I think that's what the yearning for a better life does. And we got to Australia, moved to Canterbury as our first stop. Mm-hmm. Then we grew up in Fairfield West. Then we grew up in Adenza Park, and that's kind of where we spent a lot of our 20s living at home. And schooling, I went to Macquarie Fields High. It was part selective.
Is that also a sporting school or?
Nah, my brother went to Westfield. So my older brother went to Westfield, right. So he played cricket. Yeah. My younger brother went to Hurlston. He was smart, and I sat somewhere in the middle.
That sounds like me. I'm one of 3, so I reckon I'm right in the middle somewhere.
And 3 boys, what could possibly go wrong?
Your poor mum. Yeah.
I credit my mum a lot with kind of keeping us on the straight and narrow. There's no doubt, mate, both my parents were fairly disciplined with us. Not fun at the time, but now being a parent, I'm like, you have got to run a very tight ship as a parent. And there'll be phases where things might go off the rails a little bit, but it's an ability to come together as a family and reset. And I think we had some fairly good examples of that growing up. But I think the big thing was my mum was that you've got to get educated. You came to this country, you've got to get a degree. So, all 3, my 2 brothers and I, we all went to uni. And I think that kind of gave us a really good foundation, a platform to get, into professional services. My brother's an accountant. I did my master's in my undergrad in marketing, and then Sean did his finance degree. So I think that kind of got us to a point. My parents were like, right, we've got you to this point. Now the rest is up to you and how you apply yourself and how you go out with the work ethic that they've set us up for. Mate, I was very fortunate. I landed some awesome roles. One of my probably best gigs was working at Wizard Home Loans under Mark Boris and Brad Seymour and the team there. And that really kind of got me to financial services, but it really got a place to my challenger mindset. And I love being a challenger. I play competitive sports. So for me, I'm finding a way to win. And that was like, they call it a disruptor today. That's what Wizard Home Loans was back in the day. And height of the global financial crisis, lose my job, and then eventually get back on my own 2 feet. And I got a gig over at Commonwealth Bank working in marketing, particularly for broker distribution through home loans. And that's where I guess I got that exposure to the broker channel. And to jump forward a few steps, kind of looking at, do I study my MBA? Do I go down, this path of, becoming a broker? And that's when my wife Bernadette was like, become a broker. This could be a good career move for you. And so, me with 2 degrees under my belt, becoming a lowly mortgage broker is not an easy transition. But mate, here we are. I've been out of the bank for over 10 years now, and mate, it's been a roller coaster, but I wouldn't change the course because it's got me to where I am today.
Well, that's right. I think all that experience, particularly in that corporate world, it really, I guess, teaches us all a little bit about discipline and the big factories that corporate can be, particularly a bank that you came from. But there are a lot of good structures, a lot of good systems and CRMs and process, ticking things off. And I think, I'm sure, no doubt, we'll want to talk about your current business, but no doubt a lot of that is instilled in you, which is always thinking back to what you did back in the when you worked in the corporate world.
Mate, you're absolutely spot on. As much as like being a number in a big corporate like CBA might pain you, I've got to tell you, mate, the discipline and the structure and the rigor that comes with working in one of the big four, I'm so fortunate. But I genuinely say that's where I am today because every idea is thought through. It's a highly competitive environment, so you've really got to stand out with your talents. You do what you say you're going to do, for example, your follow-up. So all those building blocks that CBA gave you to have a good corporate career. And if you apply that principles to small business, I generally say that's probably why our business does so well, is because I walked away with a whole set of like tools on my tool belt to take from a large successful organization and apply to a small business. That to me is probably the X factor.
Now, talking about the small business, which is not so small anymore, award-winning,
I think so.
mortgage broker. Tell me a little about Atelier Wealth and I guess even the journey then, because no doubt it didn't start where we are today. There's been a long road to get to where you are.
Thanks, man. Look, I mean, I started out when I left the bank. I bought a mortgage choice franchise, and it seemed like a good stepping stone. I didn't expect that I'd exited it, but it seemed like the right, support, the right, they gave you leads and the right infrastructure. I thought this could be a good opportunity. It was in a great area in Alexandria in Sydney, so really growing corridor. And then probably 12 months in, I realized that wasn't going to serve me long term. Like, you couldn't market outside your territory. There was people in there that had golden handcuffs that could never leave the franchise because it's too big and they can't leave.
Right.
You have no resale ability, so you actually don't own your own asset. And so all this kind of weighed on me. And within the first 18 months, I was like, we've got to get out of here. I made a decision at that point, and we're making some, now we're making some traction, i.e. income. And I told Bernadette we're leaving pretty much effective immediately. And that doesn't go down well naturally. But I said, I'll back myself to redo what we did, except bigger and better. And that's when Atelier Wealth was born. And again, it's just failing forward, mate. Like, some people that might take the wind out of their sails and go, that's really hurt them. For me, it was just fuel to the fire. And I'm like, I've got to make this work. I had no money. I've got work ethic. I don't have kids at the time. Yes, we were newly married, but I also had a really good supportive, spouse in Bernie, that she just gave me that freedom to go, hey, mate, if you can see the vision, and in my mind I can, this is how I want it to work, well, then pull the trigger and make it a success. So there was no option, and there's no ego when I talk about this, but there was no option for it to be anything less than what it is today. Yeah. And I still think there's unfinished business. There's so much unfinished business. That's what keeps me going as well.
It's like you feel like I'm just getting started, right? And you're 10 years in.
Right. That's exactly what I say. I'm like, we're 9 years in July, and I'm just getting started. And I think the team feed off that energy as well. Because imagine if I was a bit lax as a business owner and just swan in and swan out. No. I'm in the trenches with everyone else. I'm like, I'm at the coalface, and I think the second that I do pull back like that, it almost gives permission for the team to go, well, if he's taking his foot off the pedal, why can't I? I feel like so many business owners already, they're finding ways to check out too early, whereas they're leaving so much on the table by showing up best version of yourself, giving this thing 150%, and then, people feed off that energy and that type of conviction as well.
It's a huge, that whole, Bernadette supporting you, that support mechanism, something people don't talk about that often, but for you, I had the same issue as well, leaving that corporate world with the golden handcuffs in the corporate world, same as you. I've got 2 girls, as we talk about, and they at that stage was in private school. So that was the worst time ever I could consider to start a business from scratch, so, but if you get the right backing and support and belief, you can make it work. And one thing I always talk about, even in hiring, is you've got to find people with that burn in their stomach. If they don't want to succeed or don't have that burn, it doesn't have to be about money. It can be other things in life that, the hierarchy of needs, so to speak. It's very rare you see success.
Oh, mate, I think that's definitely the X factor again for a lot of couples, even when it comes to, say, investing in property. We'll probably jump ahead to this at some point.
Yeah.
When you can get alignment as a couple, that takes that friction away, and that's one less handbrake to focus or worry about. But if you're spending a lot of your time convincing your partner that this is a good idea, when they should be trying to support your ideas, and look, not every idea is a good idea. Sometimes it takes refining that as a couple and sharpening the sword and, getting on the same page. I'm cool with that. But at some point, you just need to go, I'm going to back you to the ends of the earth. If you think this is a good idea, I'm going to give you every bit of support I can. Sometimes easier said than done, but I'm like, if you can just keep having this mentality that we're in it together, our successes are our successes, our losses are shared as well. I don't know, mate. It gives you that permission to succeed and doesn't become that kind of ceiling on your growth as well.
No, very true. Very true. We're both very lucky.
Yeah.
Now,
absolutely.
Getting into, I guess one of the things I'd like to talk to you about is around your property journey as well. Whatever you'd like to share. Tell me about your the Christie-David family property journey.
Yeah, look, mate. Look, my parents probably paid their home off when we were teenagers, and we didn't really speak openly about money. It was very common for a lot of families, migrants,
particularly subcontinent families. Yeah, it's not something we talk about. You're right.
There's so many ethnicities that just do not speak about money as a household. And that's not wrong. I think my parents just tried to shield us from what was happening financially. And look, they bought one investment property. It was a strata property. My dad used to complain about strata. I'm like, I couldn't understand it because I'm like, you bought a unit, it has strata. You can't argue with it. And anyway, so he was telling me to buy a property. And again, I always come back to, you can't be what you can't see. So you're telling me to buy a property, but you don't believe in the asset. The math ain't mathin', Eventually I did. I bought my first property using the first homeowner grant, an apartment in North Parramatta. The real estate agent played cricket with my dad. That's ultimately how I got this property. And it was an accident. But, I could get in there, I could renovate it, not rent it out for 6 months to get the first homeowner grant, and then put it back on the market. And it did okay. Would I tell a client today to buy it? Absolutely not. It overlooked a cemetery. It was on a busy street. You couldn't do much with it. It was an old unit. But mate, it got me in the market. And I think with the equity to go and buy another unit in Liverpool. Again, terrible idea, but that's all I could afford, right? I was a graduate. I was trying to save what I could. The equity then those pull out money for our wedding, for example. There was just ways that I'm like, this works. And then I went and bought a sports car, 20-something using it. Saying absolute mistakes after mistakes. But as a 20-something-year-old, you don't know what you don't know. I used to read all the investor magazines and see how, you used to see Scotty O'Neill and some of these blokes back in the day. I'm like, how are they doing it? And I couldn't understand it. And then being in corporate, you have a lifestyle. So, I rented near the city, expensive suits, watches, holidays. I blew my money. And eventually got to the point that when I started the business, again, it's nowhere near as self-employed friendly as what it is today. So you need an ABN register for at least 1 or 2 years. The business ain't making money for the first 2 years. All our cash went into the business. So it took us out of the market for a very long time. And eventually we ended up buying another property. It was in Little Bay. I bought off the plan because I thought we were going to live there. It gave us time to save up and rent. Found out we're pregnant. We're like, we don't want to live here. We're just going to move down the coast. And that's where we made a sea change to Thirroul. This is before COVID. And we bought here, like, oh, we'll just rent for 12 months and figure out where we want to buy and what we want to do. 12 months later, COVID hits, prices accelerate. And look, eventually, mate, we sell out properties, and we were reinvesting at that time. So we had, I think, 3 properties on the go at some point. Then we sell out and then get a large deposit, and we buy our home down here in Woonona. And then since then, we've gone to buy commercial, we've got 2 other investment properties. We're in a heavy accumulation phase throughout this year. But our business has now given us the ability to go and borrow, and we've got equity on tap. So for me, we may have had to wait a while, but the business has become our big driver. And now off the back of that, we have some success to go and invest in property.
Which is really important, especially when the business hits certain milestones, to use and use that money wisely and take it out and build because, things change as well in businesses, right? So building up that nest egg. I know one of the important things for you is that intergenerational wealth is something you've talked about in the past.
Yeah, big time. Man, I see it. I can come to this within one generation. I can change my entire bloodline of property, right?
Yep.
Like, there's not many ways that you can come into a country and within one generation rewrite that script so quickly. And property lets you do that. I've done it for clients. We're doing it for ourselves. My team, a number of them have to buy. A number of them have bought property. So if I'm doing it for clients, I can do it for my team as well. Do it for myself, our family, and again, go back to this saying, you can't be where you can't see. So the second you can see something achieve that level of success, is like, well, they can do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
And that's what you need as a role model. So again, it's not a competitive sphere. It's more like, hey, tell me how you've done it. Let's collaborate. Share what you know. This is exactly what podcasting, it's exactly what case studies do, for example. Property communities do that. Courses will do that. Where if you're around a cohort of people that want the same thing, together, it's like, hey, we're on the journey together. I'll share whatever I know. You tell me what you know. We're all going to get bigger and better. And it's like, hey, man, the pie just got even bigger for everyone that's winning and succeeding. And in fact, we want more people to come on that journey with us. And that's what that abundant mindset is all about, rather than, man, if I tell someone, they're going to take away from my success and I've got to be really careful with who I tell my journey to. Nah, I don't subscribe to that type of mentality.
And I think that's something ingrained in the Australian culture, right, as well, that whole tall poppy syndrome. And we don't like to hear about those things. But it's important, particularly in the business you're in, to talk about that and share that and encourage clients and investors to take action, which is for me one of the biggest words, taking action and getting started like you did. You said you didn't get it right. You didn't get it perfect, right? You said you made a couple of mistakes, but we all have. I did that mistake 20 years ago. I bought an apartment off the plan. But that's what I've got that story to tell today. And that's how we help our clients, advance their wealth generation story much faster than I did.
Whose heart would bleed more? A young family that is renting and can't get into the market, or a young family that's on their 4th investment property and, has issues with tenants? Like, the sob story will win every day of the week.
Correct.
But why aren't we championing the family that's been able to take action, grow a portfolio? They're not relying on government. They're providing housing for, renters that need accommodation, for example. They're increasing their own wealth position. And I feel like the second that people do really well, I don't care, call it tall poppy, call it whatever, but their success is somewhat silent, because how can they share those wins and successes without saying like absolute douchebags? Like, it's a tough road for successful investors, because it can be quite lonely. It's like being successful in business, and the similarities are striking, where it's like that upper echelon then kind of keep to themselves, going, no one understands our journey. No one's championing our journey. No one's celebrating our successes. And we always got to keep it under wraps. They won't even tell their friends or family that they've bought those properties, because it almost offends others in their circle. And I can say this, having worked with so many investors, going, their successes aren't celebrated. I'm like, come on, like that ain't right.
I mean, I'm sure you have it as well, Aaron. A lot of people will say, I don't want to give a testimonial because I don't want, you guys, they'll write to us and tell us how amazing we are.
Yes.
But they don't want to go public with that, because they don't want people to know that they're investing in property, which goes exactly the point you just made.
Correct.
The Smart Property Show is proudly brought to you by Search Party Property, nominated by REB as Australia's best buyers agency and buyers agent for 2025. Looking for your dream family home? a prime commercial property, or a smart investment, we've got you covered. Unlike others, we don't rely on selling agents or property managers. We have boots on the ground in key investment cities across Australia. Powered by data-driven insights, we give you the edge to secure the best deals. Ready to invest smarter and grow faster? Contact Search Party Property today for a complimentary discovery call. All right, mate. Well, thanks for the background. Now let's get,
That's all
we
good.
want to get into your brain and
Yeah.
your expertise around finance.
Yeah.
As one of the leading mortgage brokers in the country, I want to sort of talk about a few of the, I guess, present matters at hand, and probably start with what you've seen. It's been 2-3 weeks now since we had a little interest rate drop. Something that's been debated for a long time when it's going to happen, and let's face it, we all just base it on a toss of the coin every month, right?
Yeah.
When it's going to happen again, we all have different views. I've heard economists' views and demographers' views. I personally think it's going to be later in the year. But I guess first question is, what have you seen since that rate drop in your business around lending and then around investors?
Confidence is probably the word, Julian.
Great.
Sentiment, even at the start of the year, we knew it when we came in at the start of the year, and we just saw a smashed inbox of people that were reaching out going, I want to buy, I want to talk, blah, blah. I knew at that point this was going to be a big year. And generally, we get a lot of inquiry, but this was extraordinary. And I said to the team, I'm like, strap yourselves in. This is going to be a year where people were going to bang on the doors and they'll want it done fairly quickly because sentiment was so strong. The rate cut then led to confidence. And I think you're probably seeing inflation peg back a bit. But most importantly, people's borrowing capacity has just gone up a smidge, but they can see that there's a future rate cut. You said when. So it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when there might be that next rate cut or cuts. And I think that for people going, right, but if I get a mortgage now, the repayments probably will go down. Whereas you go back 18 months, people are buying going, all right, my repayments are going to continue to keep going up.
Yeah.
And it's given relief to first home buyers going, okay, I've got a little smidge extra in borrowing capacity, waited all this time with 13 rate rises and prices didn't fall like expected. They stayed where they are or increase. Okay, waiting didn't service. We need to get into the market. And I go through every segment because I'm like, first home buyers, bang, like they're winning, especially some of the government talks and packages and
encouraging building and things like that. Yeah.
Correct. And then you take upgraders, and I think this is probably the most winning segment in 2025. You might sell in a slightly weaker market. That's cool, depending on what asset you have. But then to upgrade into a family home that you're going to be in for the next 15 years, this could be the window of time where you get in. And
selling in a weaker market, depending on where you're selling, because we've obviously got a lot of other strong markets. If we talk about Perth and Adelaide and Brisbane.
Right, spot on.
So yeah, it could be the other way around.
Mate, spot on. So you could be selling in a really sweet market, and then you could be buying in a market where you've got opportunity. Like that would have cost you far more back in the day. And now it's like, well, if I don't get in now, prices will continue to rise. And I think any property that comes renovated, again, comes with a premium too. So I think the upgrader market tick. The investor market, your point earlier, will always be, there's always investors doing something at any given time. Rates up, rates down, rates on hold, building a portfolio, being opportunistic, whatever it is. Our investor book is so resilient. Now, some investors will worry about cash flow, but other investors are willing to push through, eat some glass, as we say, be negative on cash flow, knowing that they're banking that capital growth, that when they can sell out at some point, if they choose to, pay out the debt, and they're going through that accumulation phase, and knowing that there's no property or very few properties at this stage that are neutrally geared, and they've prepared themselves for that reality as well. And then off the back of investors, you probably see SMSF investors, commercial investors, they're really getting into the game as well. And I think it's talking to a level of sophistication.
Yeah.
Buyers agents, brokers, property savvy accountants, for example. I feel like the bar has been raised in the property world, that now it's like it's not enough just to buy one or two properties. We're buying properties through trusts, through SMSFs, through companies, special purpose vehicles. We're like, just find me a way. And I think investors are very hungry to go, find me a way, because I still want to keep going, because they're bought so well that equity's there and that confidence is there to keep going.
That's some really nice, really good points there. I mean, one of the things, it's funny you said that about 18 months, people are just going to wait for the market. Whereas, like you said, our biggest year was last year. 2024 was the biggest year in the company in 7 years, and we have a lot of common connections in the buyers agency scheme, and a lot of them all said the same thing. So it shows that in a market that people are saying, well, no, we're not investing because we're at the highest 13 interest rates increases, yet a lot of us, have seen the market being very buoyant from an investment point of view. And I think the two trends we saw, which aligns with what you just said, one was superannuation, SMSF. So that was a huge trend for us last year, and that continued on already this year. And the second was rentvestors. What are you seeing around that? Because that was somewhere people just like, I can't live in Bondi, I can't afford it, but I need to invest. And so these are couples generally, they're in their maybe early 30s, no kids yet, and they've realised I can't get the dream home, I can't live in Randwick, Bondi, Coogee, but I need to invest. And we've seen them buy 2 properties over the last couple of years because they've done so well in some of the markets that we bought in.
That's fun. I think you're right. It's not that we can't afford to buy into those areas. You could afford to buy something, let's say Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane on combined income 250, right?
Yeah.
But then what happens is now you're shackled to this giant mortgage, and that has changed their entire psyche going, now I'm just going to work to pay off this behemoth mortgage, and it takes their soul out of them. All their friends are just walking billboards for like how bad it impacts your lifestyle. It's like, can't come out because we're trying to save our money. It's like, that's no way to live. So I feel like rentvesting has really grown in popularity as, one, house prices have outpaced incomes. So naturally it's made it, you're buying less than what you used to on those incomes, but also going, hang on, but I've got an income producing asset here that then is tax advantageous compared to having a giant owner occupied mortgage. And when we buy this behemoth house with this behemoth mortgage, we actually can't invest because all our money has gone into here, and there's very little borrowing capacity afterwards because they may have maxed themselves out. So I think the penny has dropped. Again, we talk about property savvy accountants, buyers agents. I think they've all come to the party going, hang on, rentvesting can be a good model if you're able to swallow your pride and rent, as opposed to have your pride, which is, oh, but I got my own home, and that's that ticket to freedom, or like a status symbol as well.
Yeah, no, I think that'll continue on that trend as well, particularly as we're seeing, like you said, if in our industry and sector, if we hear you're busy, we know that's going to come to us in probably a month or two's time. It just generally happens because they're kind of getting all their numbers together with you first, and then start looking for the property, whether they build that team of experts, as we call it, like you said, do they engage a buyer's agent or not? That'll be, that's up to the individual's decision.
Spot on.
And what about, so looking into your crystal ball, I think you've got one on your desk there somewhere. What do you see for 2025? I know we've talked about the confidence in the market, but let's talk about the next, we've got an election coming up. So we know what that generally means. We've been through many of them. It's one of the good things about being around for a while. Yeah. We know that the topic of interest and the one that's going to be plastered all over the news stories for clickbait is going to be the word property. The policies are going to be based around that. So once we get through that, what do you see happening thereafter?
Yeah, you got a cohort of borrowers that tend to put things on hold for whatever reason. I'm going to wait to the election to make a decision. I'm like, that's cool. I can't sell a loan. You need to buy properties for a loan to be facilitated. But I was thinking, what's the advantage of waiting? So if anyone's listening and going, I might wait, just convince me of the reason to wait. Because I'll tell you what, from my mind and my research tells me. So you get a Liberal government that, if they came into power, one of their election promises is to allow first home buyers to access $50,000 out of super to go and buy their first home. Now, again, you and I have been around the block for a little while. The second that you tinker with first home owner grants, it drives the market upwards, particularly at certain price points. So imagine if you could, as a couple, pull out $100,000 and you're going to take that $100,000 and buy own a rock inside, I don't know, Inner West, or I don't know, Lower North Shore, like an entry point, an entry level unit. It just pushes those values up. And that's across, I'm not talking, that's federal. So this is across the country.
Yeah, I mean, you see that in established property, but you take that next layer and talk when they have the new home buyer grants, when they're trying to push the construction industry, and straight away you call your builders and they say, oh, they just had a party because they've just increased their building price by 50K. So the price automatically next day has gone up. So actually the poor first home buyer doesn't actually get a $50 grant. It goes...
Spot on. You know, if you pull 50 grand out, but it hasn't given you $50 extra, 50K extra in the property market or a new build. So this is where, again, we're trying to have emotional conversations with first home buyers. I don't know, just ration and emotion it's too much to take in, particularly as they're trying to get into the market. I think for investors though, it's a perfect opportunity. It's like perfect. I don't subscribe like this is the best time to buy, right? But we're talking about rates coming down. We're talking about, far more borrowers, brokers, buyers agents are becoming far more sophisticated in the way they can go about scaling a portfolio.
Yeah.
I say to people, why don't you attach yourself to this rocket ship and then go? Because in 10 years' time, where you will be with your wealth position, you'd be incredibly different if you made some game-changing decisions and moves today. And look, mate, I'll put on the record, I'll tell this pretty consistently, like, don't ask me in 10 years' time how we're doing it. Something like your podcast, our podcast, I'm telling you when I'm doing it now, here's how to do it. Don't come to me in 10 years' time because I want to kind of, I don't know, I want to relax a little bit more.
But go to the videotape, you can tell them.
Mate, it's like, hey, everyone's dropping the breadcrumbs how to do it now. And if you're not making moves, or if you're not making decisions, if you're not taking action, the only person that's going to be on is yourself. Like no one is coming to save you. Yeah. We send out so many loan strategies. We do not follow up. And that's a fault of ours. But like, if you've got to want it bad enough.
Yeah.
You've got to make it a priority. You have to want it bad enough. I can't sell you into this mortgage. I can't sell you into this investment property. We can only meet you halfway about where you want to be. And we've only got so many hours in a day. And those hours get allocated to people that are banging on the door, hungry and yearning to grow a property portfolio. And we can match that energy. And the same would be for yourself as a buyer's agent. Yeah, we've got this like complex that we want to help everyone, but we can't help everyone. Like you have to want it for yourself.
Yeah, and I think it's only when you get confident in your business, 9 years in, and and with us 7, it's that when you can start making those choices, right? And you don't take everyone in. You want people, even as the customer, a client, we want them to be motivated to buy. We want them to have the right reasons why they want to buy, and we want them to take action, which then it makes it a great relationship, long going, and hence why we have so many like you, repeat clientele just coming back year after year.
Yeah. No, thanks, man.
Now, mate, in terms of, I guess, final question for all our listeners out there who have been inspired by your words and want to get ready to, let's say, either invest or buy a first home, what should they do to get ready to take action?
I think don't underestimate how much time is involved, and people just roll up and go, okay, I'm ready to get pre-approved. It's like, hey, mate, there's a process, and I hate being a handbrake or slowing things down. But once you take a step back and you go, but what are we actually trying to do here? What are we trying to achieve? And trying to tease out a plan, a long-term vision for what you're actually trying to achieve. Hey, I want to buy this next property is a great idea, but do you want to buy the next one and the next one and the next one after that? And again, it can be a little bit hard to say because you just want to get in the market.
Yeah.
But if you have a desire to grow a portfolio, then be upfront with that desire. And if someone laughs at you, then you just walk out and you find the next broker, you find the next team member. If they can't help you, don't take no for an answer. So there's a certain level of personal resilience that you're going to need. I mean, I have met people that took no for an answer 4 years ago. That's 4 years they've been out of the market. And it's hard because your no could really deflate someone and cause them to take no action. But I'm like, there's got to be some type of resilience here. You go, I am not taking no for an answer. I'm going to be the master and commander of my own destiny and my own ship.
Yeah.
Put yourself in the driver's seat. And if someone's not willing to give you a yes, you keep going till you get a yes. You keep going. And they're the people that you want to partner with for the long term. So I think it comes down to a little bit of mindset. The next one is just plugging yourself into as many resources as you can. Look, this is not me plugging my book, but I put my pen to paper. We're trying to help first-time buyers because I specialize with investors. So this is kind of my gift to a lot of first-home buyers because I'll speak too fast and they can't keep up. again, there's so much to learn, right? So I'm like, this is a self-paced book where you understand from go to woe how to start from where you are to how to get keys into your hand and how to achieve that dream of home ownership. Because first home buyers, I've got to say, get peddled so much rubbish that it's so hard to buy. And we sat around our table this morning with the team having coffee. I was like, how many clients this week have we not been able to get a solution to? I was like, none. Everyone we got options to. Wow. So it's like, there are solutions, there are options. You've just got to be willing to turn over every stone. And to me, that if anyone's listening and they want copies of the book, I give it away. I'm like, I just want to put it in people's hands. I don't even like, there's no need to make money off the back of that. It's just like, hey, stack the deck in your favor. Don't listen to the media. They'll tell you that, you know, first home buyers can never get in. It takes 20 years to save for a 20% deposit. You don't need a 20% deposit. You need a 5% deposit. Like there's stuff like this, Julian, where I'm like, it gets me going.
Yeah, that's good. Love the passion.
It gets me going. And that's probably why I wrote the book, because I'm like, I can't just keep walking around like this chip on my shoulder going, the media is wrong. Their voice is louder than mine. But what I can do is I can show people there's a blueprint. I can give them examples and options about how to get into the market. And to me, it doesn't matter if you're buying your first property or your 15th property, there is a way. And where there's a will, there is a way. You've sort of keep knocking on doors to help you get there.
No, great inspirational words, mate. Thank you for that. And yeah, I was going to give you a plug as well. So I've got one here, and I've got a bunch of them. And we'll put some show notes in there. And if anyone does want one, let us know, and we'll get them out to you.
No, thanks, Matt. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much for your time. It's great to have you on. I'll be looking forward to reversing the camera and the speaker and talking to you. And it's been great to really dig in deep and understand a little bit more about you personally, but also get a lot of insights for you for a lot of our listeners. So thank you very much again.
Mate, look, you're a legend, and I guess from one podcast to I know what it takes to get this going. But also the message is pure. Like, I'm not saying this to blow any smoke for you, mate, but there's no agenda. You're not trying to sell something to a course or like, hey, you have to use us, for example. Hey, it's just like, how do you arm yourself with so much good information that you're going to walk out of this? If you've spent the time, 30 odd minutes investing in yourself, we want to give value. And it's like, hey, mate, we want to help people take action. That's when the rubber hits the road, and things aren't always smooth sailing with our respective businesses. I'm sure there's things that happen that go wrong. It's just how you deal with it. But I say credit to yourself and the team. I know you guys play with a very straight bat. You do a great job there as well. So kudos to you guys, and good luck with your journey.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate the kind words, and catch you soon.
Pleasure.
Okay. See you, Aaron. Bye.
See ya.
A huge thank you to our guest, Aaron Christie-David, for sharing his insights today. And of course, thanks to you for tuning in. I hope you got something valuable from this episode. If you enjoyed the show, it'd mean a lot if you could take a moment to rate and review it on your favourite podcast platform. It really helps us reach more listeners like you. And don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. Thanks again, and I'll catch you next time.